The stars above Earth's blue sky had become a constant reminder of the endless war that raged in the depths of space. For years, humanity had fought a brutal war against a coalition of alien species, with battles won and lost in the void of space. Earth's military had struggled to hold its ground, and although they were not entirely outmatched, victory was still a distant dream. For Captain William Carter, the dream of peace seemed impossible, but everything was about to change. Will was no stranger to war. As a seasoned officer in Earth's fleet, he had seen things that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The countless battles had taken their toll on him, and the memories of fallen comrades weighed heavily on his heart. But through all of it, he had maintained a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to end the conflict. It was during a routine reconnaissance mission that everything changed. Will and his team were dispatched to a region of space that had been marked as Varnak territory, a region the human fleet had been warned never to enter. The Varnak Empire was known for its military might, and their relationship with humanity had been nothing short of hostile. However, rumors had circulated that a faction of the Varnak was looking for peace. These rumors seemed like the faintest whispers in the wind, but Will's mission was to investigate them. It was a risky mission, one that could lead to an even larger conflict, but it was a risk he was willing to take. As their ship, the Renegade, entered Varnak space, the crew fell into a tense silence. Will stood at the helm, watching as the stars ahead of them grew dimmer, replaced by the blackness of unknown space. The mission was simple: find out if there was any truth to the rumors, and if there was, make contact. The future of Earth might depend on it. They reached the Varnak's fleet, and Will's heart raced in his chest. The ships that surrounded them were massive, unlike anything Earth's military had encountered before. Their designs were elegant but deadly, with sleek, sharp lines that hinted at their advanced technology. Will's crew had been prepared for a hostile encounter, but as they approached the flagship, a calm voice crackled over the comms. "This is Queen Serena Varnak. You are to be escorted to our warship. Do not attempt to flee or resist." Will's mind raced. Queen Serena Varnak, the most powerful leader in the Varnak Empire. Why would she be making contact with Earth? He knew that the Varnak were ruthless conquerors, not diplomats. But the message was clear. They had been waiting for him. The Renegade was pulled into the docking bay of the flagship. As Will stepped out of the ship, the air felt heavier, charged with an unfamiliar energy. He was met by several Varnak soldiers, towering and imposing, their armor reflecting the dim lights around them. But it wasn't their presence that caught Will's attention. It was the woman waiting for him at the center of the room. Queen Serena stood in front of a large, ornate throne. She was tall, much taller than any human, with features that were almost too perfect to be real. Her skin was a shade of violet that shimmered in the soft light, and her eyes, a deep shade of gold, seemed to pierce through Will's very soul. Her presence was commanding, but there was something more, something soft, almost inviting, hidden behind the fierce exterior. Will had never met anyone like her. "Captain Carter," she said, her voice calm but full of authority, "I trust your journey was smooth." Will was taken aback by the smoothness of her voice, though he quickly regained his composure. "It was." "Unexpected, Your Majesty," he replied. "We came in response to the message we received. We're here to speak of peace." Queen Serena studied him for a moment, her gaze unwavering. "Peace. Yes, that is why you are here." She nodded slowly, stepping down from her throne and walking toward him. Each step she took seemed to carry a weight of power that could not be ignored. "I must admit, I did not expect Earth to send someone like you. I assumed they would send diplomats, but I suppose it is fitting that a warrior comes instead." Will felt his heart pound in his chest. "I'm no diplomat, Your Majesty. I'm just here to listen and see if there's a chance for humanity to survive this war." Serena smiled, though it was a small, sad smile. "I think you already know the answer, Captain. Humanity has fought hard, but the galaxy does not bend easily to those who cannot adapt." She was right. Earth had fought to the best of its abilities, but the Varnak Empire was a force unlike anything they had faced before. Will knew that peace was humanity's only hope for survival, but he also knew that peace with the Varnak came with a heavy price. "You came here seeking peace, and you will find it, but it comes at a cost," Serena continued. "The Varnak have ruled the stars for millennia, and we have no intention of letting that change. To ensure humanity's place in this galaxy, Earth must bend to our will." Will could hear the weight of her words, but he wasn't ready to accept defeat. "And what does that mean? What does humanity have to give in return? Serena's golden eyes gleamed, and she took another step closer. Your people must submit to us. There will be no more resistance. Earth will join our empire, and in exchange, you will be spared from destruction. Your world will be protected. Will felt a chill run down his spine. The price was steep, and part of him resisted the thought of bowing to the Varnak. But deep down, he knew that humanity could not stand alone any longer. They needed allies, and the Varnak Empire was the only one with the power to ensure Earth's survival. I'm not sure if my people will agree to this, Will said softly, but I will do what I can. Serena's gaze softened. It is not your people who will decide. It is you, Captain Carter. You will be the key to peace, the bridge between our two worlds. Will's heart raced as she spoke. He had always been a man of action, but this was something different. This wasn't a battlefield. This was a war of hearts and minds. The future of his world rested on his shoulders, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for the responsibility. And then, as if in a moment of clarity, Will whispered to himself, I wish I could marry her. The words escaped his lips before he could stop them. They were a reflection of his inner turmoil, a mix of awe and desperation. He didn't know what it meant to marry the queen of an empire, but he did know that her power could save humanity. To his surprise, Serena turned, her piercing gaze locking with his. For a moment, the room fell into a tense silence, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. And then, Serena smiled. It wasn't a smile of amusement, but one of understanding. My answer is yes, she said softly, her voice carrying across the room like a gentle breeze. You are not the first to have such a wish, but I accept it. Will's mind raced. He had not expected this. He had been caught in a whirlwind of thoughts, but now her words had stopped him cold. You accept? Yes, Serena replied, stepping closer to him. The peace I offer is not just political, it is personal. If you accept my proposal, humanity's future will be secured. But this union is not just about politics. It is about trust, and I trust you, Captain Carter. Will stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had just happened. He had come to negotiate a ceasefire, but now he found himself on the brink of something far larger. A political alliance, yes, but something more, a chance to lead his people into an entirely new era. But as he looked into Serena's golden eyes, he knew this was only the beginning. What would happen next? He couldn't yet say. But one thing was certain. His world and his heart had just been forever changed. The days after Will's surprising conversation with Queen Serena were a blur. The gravity of her words hung over him like an invisible weight. Her proposal was more than he had expected, more than he had prepared for. A political union, a chance for peace. Yes, that was all clear. But the personal implications, the promise of something far deeper, were still swirling in his mind. After the meeting, Will returned to Earth, the renegade cutting through the stars at maximum speed. His mind was a whirlwind of questions. What did it mean to marry a queen from an alien empire? What would his people think? And most importantly, could he truly accept what was being asked of him? Humanity had fought against alien invaders for so long. The idea of joining forces with an empire that had crushed countless civilizations seemed impossible. How could he, a man who had spent his entire life fighting for Earth's survival, now stand by the side of the very forces that had once been humanity's greatest threat? But as he sat alone in his quarters aboard the Renegade, staring out at the blackness of space, Will couldn't deny that Serena's offer was more than just political strategy. It was an invitation, one that promised both peace and a future. The question was, could he accept it? When Will returned to Earth, the news of his unexpected meeting with Serena spread like wildfire. The governments, the military, the civilians, everyone had something to say about the peace proposal. Some were hopeful, others outraged. Earth had been at war with the Varnak for years, and the idea of surrendering to them, of joining forces, felt like betrayal to many. But there was more at stake than just national pride or personal opinions. Will was now at the center of a galactic negotiation that could determine the future of humanity. The Varnak were a powerful force, and Earth needed their protection. Still, it was hard to ignore the unease that settled over him each time he thought about the implications of what he had agreed to. Are you sure about this? Captain Jonathan Hall, Will's longtime friend and fellow officer, asked one day as they sat together in the Renegade's mess hall. Jonathan was a no-nonsense man, a soldier through and through. He had seen too much of the war to trust the Varnak or any alien species. Will looked across the table at him, seeing the concern in his friend's eyes. I don't know, Johnny. I've never felt this way before. There's a part of me that thinks this is the only way forward, but there's another part that's terrified. I can't ignore the fact that these are the same people who have been our enemies for so long. And now we're supposed to just join them. Jonathan sighed, leaning back in his chair. I get it, Will, I do, but something doesn't sit right with me. This Queen Serena, what does she really want from you? I mean, why you specifically? You're just a soldier. There's got to be more to this. Will didn't have an answer for that. He had wondered the same thing ever since Serena had spoken those words. My answer is yes. Why had she said that? He hadn't expected it. He hadn't even meant to speak those words aloud. But it was clear to him now that something had shifted. Serena wasn't just offering peace. She was offering something far more significant, something personal, something he couldn't ignore. Still, Will couldn't help but wonder about the consequences. What would it mean for humanity if they accepted the Varnak's offer? Would they truly be safe? Or would they become just another conquered race under the control of the Varnak Empire? As Will continued to grapple with these questions, the media on Earth began to cover the story. News stations, social media platforms, and even underground forums were filled with debates about the proposed alliance. Some citizens cheered for the possibility of peace, while others protested, demanding that Earth remain independent and continue fighting. The division among humanity was palpable, and Will could feel the pressure mounting as he prepared for his next steps. Despite the controversy, Will knew that he couldn't ignore Serena's words. He had to return to her to fulfill the agreement they had made. It wasn't just a matter of politics anymore. It was about something deeper, something that tied him to the Varnak in a way he couldn't yet fully understand. After weeks of preparation, the day arrived. Will stood on the deck of the Renegade, gazing out at the stars once more. The mission had changed. No longer was he just a soldier fighting a war. Now he was about to enter into a union that would define the future of Earth. He wasn't sure if he was ready, but there was no turning back. The Renegade emerged from the atmosphere and began its journey back to the Varnak Empire. The journey was long, and the silence aboard the ship was thick with anticipation. Will spent the hours alone, contemplating his decisions, wondering if he had made the right choice. But as they drew closer to the Varnak flagship, his thoughts were interrupted by a message from Serena herself. This is Queen Serena. I await your arrival, Captain Carter. Come to me. Her voice was calm, but there was something behind it, something that made his heart race. He had no idea what awaited him on the other side of this meeting, but he knew that it would change everything. As the ship docked with the Varnak warship, Will took a deep breath, trying to calm the nerves that had begun to stir in his chest. The doors to the warship opened, and he was greeted by a familiar sight, Serena. She stood before him, her presence as commanding as ever. This time, however, there was something different about her. Her eyes were softer, warmer, as if she had been waiting for him for this moment. She stepped forward, her robes flowing behind her like a shimmering veil. Captain, she said, her voice laced with something that felt almost like affection. I knew you would come. Will nodded, his throat tight. He didn't know what to say, didn't know if there were any words that could express what he was feeling. Instead, he simply stepped forward, meeting her gaze. I'm here, he said, his voice steady, though his heart beat faster with each passing second. I'm here to do what must be done, for Earth. Serena's smile grew, but it was not a smile of triumph. It was one of understanding. You are here for more than that, Captain. You are here because the future of your world and mine are now intertwined. Will felt the weight of her words settle over him. This was no longer just about peace. It was about something much larger, something he couldn't quite grasp, but knew he had to accept. Your answer is yes, Serena asked softly, her golden eyes searching his face. He nodded. Yes, he whispered, though it felt like the word weighed 1,000 pounds on his tongue, and just like that, the future was set. Serena extended her hand, and Will took it, feeling the coldness of her skin beneath his. The moment was surreal, as though the universe itself had paused to witness their union. Will knew that he was no longer just Captain William Carter, soldier of Earth. He was something more now, something that would forever alter the course of history. But as they stood there, side by side, Will couldn't help but wonder, what had he truly agreed to? What would the cost of this union be? He didn't have the answers yet, but he was about to find out. The days following Will's decision felt like a blur. He had made a promise, yes, but the reality of it began to weigh on him with each passing moment. He had agreed to marry Serena, the queen of the Varnak, to secure peace for humanity. But as the days turned into weeks, Will found himself grappling with questions he wasn't ready to answer. What kind of peace had he agreed to? Was it truly in the best interest of Earth, or had he made a deal that would come with consequences he couldn't foresee? Serena had made it clear from the beginning that their union was not just a political one. It was something more, something that tied them together in ways he couldn't yet understand. And though he had agreed to her proposal, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was hidden beneath the surface. The Varnak Empire was powerful, yes, but they were also secretive. And Serena, despite her calm and composed demeanor, held secrets of her own. Will found himself on the Varnak warship once again, but this time he wasn't just a visitor. He was now a part of the Empire, bound to Serena by a promise, by a bond that seemed unbreakable. The Varnak had accepted him as their own, but as the days wore on, Will couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in his chest. Was he truly a leader now, or had he just traded one form of captivity for another? He spent his days studying the Varnak Empire, trying to learn more about its history, its culture, and the people who ruled it. He had met with ambassadors and diplomats from across the galaxy, each one offering their own perspective on the union between Earth and the Varnak. Some were eager to see it succeed, while others were more cautious, questioning the true motives behind Serena's actions. But the more Will learned, the more he realized that the Varnak were not the invincible force they appeared to be. Beneath their power and their advanced technology, there were cracks in the foundation. Serena had told him as much. The Empire was struggling, and the peace they sought with Earth was not just for their benefit, it was for the survival of both their worlds. The peace talks had continued in earnest, with Serena leading the discussions from her throne room. Will sat beside her during each meeting, a silent partner, watching as the Queen navigated the delicate negotiations with the precision of a master strategist. She had never been anything less than impressive, commanding the room with ease, her golden eyes reflecting the weight of the decisions they were making. But as much as Will admired her, he couldn't help but notice how the tension in her eyes grew with each passing day. She was hiding something, and he knew it. He had asked her about it once, but she had only smiled and told him that it was a burden she would bear alone. He wasn't sure what that meant, but he wasn't willing to leave it at that. There was something in Serena's past that she hadn't shared with him, and it was beginning to feel like a wall between them. One evening, as they sat together in her private chambers, Will decided to confront her. The moonlight filtered through the massive windows, casting a soft glow across her face. She looked every bit the Queen, regal and composed, but Will saw the exhaustion beneath her calm exterior. "Serena," he began, his voice quiet but firm. "I need to know." "What aren't you telling me?" She turned to face him, her eyes narrowing slightly, though there was no anger in her gaze. "You've asked me that before," she said softly, "and I've told you what I can. There are things I cannot share with you, Will, not yet." Will sat up straighter, his frustration building. Why can't you tell me? I've made this choice, this sacrifice, for Earth, for humanity. I need to know that we're not walking into something we can't escape." Serena's expression softened, and for a moment Will saw the vulnerability that she kept hidden behind her queenly demeanor. "I never wanted this, Will. I never wanted to involve you in this, but the fate of both our worlds is at stake, and the truth is dangerous. It could destroy everything we've worked for." Will felt his heart sink. "What truth?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Serena hesitated for a long moment before speaking, her voice low and filled with a strange sadness. "The Varnak Empire is not what it seems. We have hidden a secret for centuries, a secret so powerful that it could bring about our downfall. It is the reason we've been at war with so many other species. It's the reason we're so desperate for peace. The truth is, we cannot survive without your help." Will's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what she was saying. "What do you mean? What secret?" Serena stood, walking to the window and gazing out at the stars. "The Varnak Empire is built on a foundation of power we do not fully understand. There is a force, an ancient energy that gives us our strength. It is the key to everything. But it is unstable, and over time it has become more and more unpredictable. We've kept it hidden not just from the galaxy, but from ourselves. I have spent my life trying to control it, trying to harness it, but the truth is, it is slowly destroying us." Will stood up, his mind spinning. And you think that marrying me, that uniting our two worlds will somehow solve this? Serena nodded, her expression grave. I know it's a lot to ask, but you must understand, Will, this isn't just about peace between Earth and the Varnak. This is about survival. If we do not find a way to control this power, both our worlds will be destroyed. Will didn't know what to say. The weight of her words settled on him like a heavy burden, and for a moment he felt completely overwhelmed. But then, something inside him clicked. He had made a choice. He had chosen to stand by Serena to protect Earth, to fight for peace. And now he had to do whatever it took to ensure that peace would last. I'm with you, Serena, he said, his voice steady. I don't know what this power is or how we can control it, but I'm not going to back down now. We'll figure this out together. Serena turned to face him, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and gratitude. You don't understand, Will. I don't know if I can control it. I don't know if anyone can, but together maybe we can. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of their shared responsibility hanging between them. Will knew that their union, their bond, was the key to what came next. But he also knew that the path ahead would not be easy. There were too many unknowns, too many dangers. The future of Earth, the future of the Varnak, and the future of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. And for the first time, Will truly understood the gravity of what he had agreed to. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. The peace talks continued, but now they were no longer just about politics. They were about survival. Will worked alongside Serena and her advisors, trying to understand the full extent of the power they were dealing with. It was a force unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, an ancient energy older than the Varnak themselves that had been passed down through generations. But as Serena had said, it was unstable, and its influence was growing stronger by the day. Will's role in all of this became clearer. His marriage to Serena wasn't just a symbol of peace. It was a bond that tied him to the very heart of the Varnak Empire. Together, they would attempt to control this force, to prevent it from consuming everything. It was a task that would require all of their strength, all of their resolve. And as Will stood beside Serena, looking out at the stars once more, he realized that his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a soldier fighting for Earth. He was part of something much larger, something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. And though he didn't know what the future held, one thing was certain: he wasn't going to face it alone. Together, he and Serena would face the unknown. Together, they would fight for the survival of their worlds. And together, they would find a way to control the power that threatened to destroy them all.